Hello, Jennifer.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How's my boy Eric? I love you.
He's great. Yeah, he's doing great. I love you too, he says.
Good. We are going to talk about some of the solutions to what's going on now. But I told Jennifer she looks so cute in a hat. I never look good, and I should wear a hat every day because of my hair. But everybody agrees I look awful in any kind of hat. So I was telling you the story a long time ago. I was into tennis, and I went to this tennis club, had a ball machine, and I was just, hit them and hit them and hit them. Then I decided to, pack up and go home. So I was I put my hat on, dragged the machine behind me, and I'm very cheerful, okay? And so this guy passed by, and I go, "Hi, how you doing?" Like a crazy woman. Ah! And he like looked weird. I said, "Well, gosh, he's kind of standoffish." So anyway, I dropped by the bathroom, looked in the mirror, and the visor I had, which is super long, I mean, out to here, I flipped it, and it was upside down, like, and I looked like the Pope. Oh wow, that makes my arms look so fat. Anyway, so no wonder I look goofy. First of all, I go, "Hi," and then I should have told him, "Hey, this is for me to catch foul balls," but no. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about the pandemic solutions. And a lot of these are, of course, from our wonderful blog members, and I sure do appreciate it. Eric, what are the solutions for, first of all, this current pandemic,
Okay,
including
so
the best
he,
cures, whatever?
well, okay, so what he says first to me is that time is a solution. Time is a solution here. Unfortunately. It does take some time because he says, there's trial and error. There's so much trial and error. Um, but what he's making me feel is that we're kind of coming to really a good place with it, just globally speaking.
Good.
There's a lot of options as far as treatments go. He's saying and like with a lot of illnesses, if you lined up 10 people who have the exact same thing, and you've got 6 different treatments, some of the treatments are going to work for some for others, and not work. And so he says that really is what's weird kind of about this virus, how he puts it, is that it's not as standard of a virus treatment
Okay.
as
Why?
typical viruses.
Why is that?
Um, he says really because it's like a super virus.
Okay. Yeah.
It
Well,
has
I
a, it
think
does,
it has the double capsid, the bioweaponized one, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's
yeah. Well, and it has like a mind of its own, and
okay.
it's there's almost like an intelligence to it. He
Oh,
says.
wow.
Now he doesn't mean really an
No,
intelligent, but
yeah.
it, yeah,
It knows when to mutate, who to attack, who's the weakest, things like that. Are you talking about?
yeah, and it has such a wide range of ways it presents, from nothing, to death,
Yeah, I
so
know.
it's just, yeah, it's
Well,
weird because he says, like, when you compare it to other viruses, yes, people can be asymptomatic, but what he's saying is that over time we're going to see that a lot of people, a high percentage of people were asymptomatic, had it and were asymptomatic, more so than most viruses.
yeah. And that's why these ER docs who their YouTube came down, they have
Mhm.
collected a lot of data, and they said that the influenza virus has a death rate of 1.3, something like that. I can't remember. And the coronavirus, a death rate of 0.02. So they feel like we should never have locked down, because lockdown has its own horrible unintended consequences from, well, we'll talk about that later, even
Yeah.
more possible deaths and morbidity and mortality, just casualties overall. Will there ever be a cure?
There will be a vaccine. A vaccine is
Hmm.
what Eric says. Cure, he says, cure for virus.
Just prevent.
Cure and virus don't really go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, so he says eventually there will be a vaccine. And eventually there will be medications, like he tells me, Tamiflu, where like if you find you're getting it, you start it right away and it shortens the
Okay.
lifespan of it.
What about Gilead's remdesivir? That seems to hold promise. Is that good for people who have the virus, and even for their contacts?
Okay, so I personally have no idea what that is, but
Okay.
Erik says yes. I have no idea if this is a medication, if this
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
okay.
So
Okay, so he says yes. Yes, it will hold some it holds some promise um for some, it holds some promise for some. And he says, still with the malaria medication, they're seeing some,
yeah,
they're seeing.
hydroxychloroquine. Is that
Mhm.
as long as you get a visual inspection first as a baseline, because it can't,
Yes.
color vision, whatever, and also if you don't have any heart problems, is that something that um, COVID patients should take? If so, only the ones with severe illness, or
Yeah. So that's what he says it's going to be, is that there's going to be different levels of drugs that are used for different levels of the illness.
okay.
Um, so now I happen to personally see this YouTube video a few days ago. When I was seeing it, Erik was with me, and he just kept giving me the goosebumps and goosebumps and goosebumps and saying yes, yes, yes. And so I'm going to share that now,
Oh yeah,
because
go
he's
ahead.
telling me to. um and a lot of you may have seen this. There's a woman, she's got dark hair, and she's just sitting in front of the camera talking about how she's made the connection between the coronavirus and um high altitude sickness.
Yeah, I know. That's what I've sent letters everywhere.
Yes.
That's the big problem. They are treating this as if it's adult respiratory distress syndrome. So
Hmm.
they have ventilator settings on very high PEEP, positive in expiratory pressure, and that's deadly. You get barrel trauma to the lungs, and so they're dying because of that. And it should be treated like HAPE, high altitude pulmonary edema. It's like they
Yes.
got dropped off at the top of Mount Everest. So let's talk about what we do. Of course, a lot of oxygen, but what about things like acetazolamide, which is for that? It's also known as
the,
Diamox. Would that help?
yes,
For
and
people with
actually,
respiratory distress, basically.
yeah, what Erik is saying is that they're going to see, once they, it's the problem is, he says the problem is that people, and people, humans, we want to know, like this.
No.
We want to know. And unfortunately, this is something new. We need time to study things. But what Erik is saying is about those medications for the high altitude sickness, they're going to find long term that is one of the best treatments for it.
God dang it.
And
I mean,
he's
they've been
telling
out
me,
forever. Why not do it?
well, he says you have people who are using that, but it's trial and error is what he says.
Yeah.
So it's making the connection, because he says at first everybody goes into panic mode.
Yeah.
Everybody just goes into panic mode. So he says even the medical people are just trying to keep people alive. So the actual sitting down and studying, it takes time. That first wave of panic has to kind of quiet down before we start actually getting some of the data in. But
Well,
the
I mean, they're just
initial
by not
wave.
thinking and considering and reflecting, they are creating situations that require panic. All right, so let me ask you,
Yes.
what about, okay, so for HAPE, the high, um, whatever, altitude pulmonary edema, I'm calling it HAPE, guys, okay? So if you're critically ill, and maybe before you're on a ventilator, certainly while you're on
Yes.
a ventilator, don't put on high PEEP settings, but Diamox, acetazolamide, nifedipine, and phosphodiesterase inhibitors. Those three are really good
Mhm.
trio for HAPE. Is that what these people should be on if they're critically ill with COVID?
Yes, I don't know that those would all three be given at the same time. He's making me feel like we would try one or the other, or maybe two, a combination of two.
Okay,
But
which
he's also telling me, and I feel a little reluctant to say this, but he says, no, go ahead, say it.
well, you
Um,
check with your doctor. Come on.
Yes. So, well, with the ventilators, he's saying that they're finding, and I don't even know if this is what's happening, but that the ventilators are causing an underlying infection
Oh, oh,
or
wow.
an underlying issue. That's
Oh,
not.
yeah, yeah. Are you talking about the barotrauma, the pressure trauma due to the high peak?
Is that, does that cause an infection?
No, no, it causes trauma to the bronchioles and
Does
alveoli.
it close it up? Does it close it up more? He's
Well,
saying something's happening in there where it's actually creating more inflammation for
okay.
some people. Okay, for
Yeah,
some people it says for some the ventilators are working, but for some it's creating more of an inflammation and making it even harder to get the air through.
yeah, it's probably causing um, fibrolytic, I mean, just fibrin changes and deposits, maybe. Is that it?
Okay.
The barotrauma?
Yeah, but he says that would cause the inflammation that he's talking about. He's talking about more inflammation, extra inflammation
Yeah.
aside from what's already there from the virus.
Yeah. Okay. You guys, this is not medical advice. Okay. We're just discussing, and you always need to check with a physician. Just make sure it's a good one. Jesus. Okay. So what else for the critically ill? What about high dose, like IV, certain vitamins, vitamin C, there, zinc? I mean, anything
Yep.
else? We're just talking about the critically ill right now.
The C, the D, and the zinc
Mm-hmm.
um are all very good. The I can't ever say this one, the quinine.
Oh, hydroxyquinoline. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and it's in like tonic water.
Yeah.
Um, so
Have
these
a gin
things
and
are all good.
tonic. Mhm.
What would you say?
Just have a gin and tonic.
Yes, exactly. Um, so yeah, the C, the D, the zinc are all very, very good, and the
Hydroxyquinoline.
yeah, and he's the
Hydroxyquinoline.
IV with the high dose vitamin C.
Right. Okay. Now, it is not the stuff you use to clean fish tanks. Hydroxychloroquine is also known as Plaquenil, and we've used it for, like rheumatoid arthritis and other things. So don't, just seriously check with your doctor. Um, okay, what about those who have mild or moderate symptoms? What should they be on? I mean, of
Uh,
course, there's individual responses. They have to talk to their doctor, but for the most part,
for the most part, he says for people who are having mild, even moderate, the vitamins, just
okay.
the vitamins,
Oh, okay.
orally.
So not hydroxychloroquine, right? For them.
He says it's not necessary when we're talking mild, even moderate.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. Again, it's a time thing. The virus is going to
Yeah.
run its course.
Yeah.
And then I guess he's also saying whatever your doctor would recommend, if anything, for pain,
Yeah. Yeah.
fever, because there is definitely can be some discomfort.
Well, they initially thought that NSAIDs like Motrin made it worse, but now they're coming out with the fact that it doesn't. I guess.
Yeah, no, Eric says no. No, he again, check with your doctor, but he's saying really none of the over-the-counter pain relievers make it worse.
Yeah. Oh, good. All right. So, what vitamins, herbs, or whatever can also help not only treat, but we talked about that, but what about preventing COVID? This woman talks about black licorice root, which blocks the ACE2 receptors, which apparently the virus tends to attack in the lung.
Yeah,
Angiotensin
so
converting enzyme, basically.
really anything that is going to boost the immune system. Um, so obviously the vitamin C, the licorice root, elderberry, the sambucol.
Oh,
That
okay.
might be the same. That might be the same thing. I'm not positive. As they say, the black licorice and the sambucol. I feel like those are similar. Eric's kind of like there's something similar there.
Okay.
Um, Echinacea, if you can take it, some people can't because they're allergic. I
Oh,
myself am allergic to echinacea, so I can't take anything with it in there.
yeah.
But anything that's going to boost your immune system. Also, um, eating an anti-inflammatory diet is
Yes.
something that's very good for preventative, because as a lot of people know, disease and illness need inflammation to
That,
grow.
So true. And I saw, it's interesting. I watched this program on Gaia called Transcendence or whatever. Anyway, it's What's in Our Food. Episode 1 was about how in the 80s, agriculture, they GMO, genetically modified wheat, because, they had good, intentions. They wanted to increase the production so that we could feed more of the world. But unfortunately, it changed it genetically so that it stimulates inflammation like you wouldn't believe. So it used to be 6 feet tall wheat. Now it's these little 18-inch dwarfs that really, and if you look at when they started making that kind of wheat against grafts, in the 80s, starting in the 80s, 85 or whatever, diabetes, whoosh, autoimmune disease, whoosh, Crohn's disease, whoosh. I mean, it's obesity, boom. So yeah, we need to rethink wheat and not, it's not the same wheat as 40 years ago. Not at all. It's so bad.
No, Erik calls it, he says it's basically mostly filler. There's not really any nutrition in it.
Yeah, and then it does cause so much inflammation to the gut, and then your gut heals and more, and the gut gets injury and heals, and finally it doesn't heal anymore, and you get the leaky gut, which lets all sorts of toxin into our bloodstream. So you guys watch that on Gaia. It's awesome. Okay, so what about oregano oil? Because you're a big believer in that.
Yes, oregano oil is fantastic. Okay. That's one that, when you actually have a virus, you can use it. It's like a natural antibiotic. Use it twice a day under your tongue. It burns like hell.
Really?
You only leave it there for a few seconds, and then you got to have like water right there to drink. Yeah, it's strong.
Okay. One person asked, would fasting, like drinking only water, be beneficial for a COVID patient?
For some people, this would be beneficial. What is it? Feed a cold, starve a fever. Erik says there is something to that. Okay. To starving a fever, there is something to that. However, he says, with the weakness, it might be better done under a doctor's care.
And if you have diabetes and all that, it's very common.
Yeah.
The health need to be talked about to help with a healthcare provider. What about I saw that video of the guy who's just 6 inhalations of spray of 3% hydrogen peroxide, and he hasn't had any kind of illness in so long. So one person's asking, would hydrogen peroxide nebulizer therapy be effective? I mean, is it as effective as it seems to be against this new corona and other viruses?
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty effective. Again, Erik says not for everybody, but yes, it is quite effective. But he says that one, people will have a hard time getting somebody to approve it, like a doctor. Doctors won't approve that.
Well, I just have a little spray bottle of Mister, and you get 6 puffs. Sometimes I have to do it in 3 breaths, and then wash your mouth out, because hydrogen peroxide, if it stays on your mouth, it can temporarily make your tongue turn black. Okay. Some people float the idea of herd immunity as a means to end the pandemic. Is this a good solution for the rest of the world, like they're doing in Sweden and Belarus at the moment? Just like let them get sick, because there's only a 0. I mean, sure, people are going to die. One death is awful, but 0.02 death rate compared to 1.3 with influenza, and we don't lock down for that. So what do you recommend?
Herd immunity is, well, eventually it's going to happen anyways, is what Erik says. Eventually herd immunity happens anyways.
Okay.
Because it goes through, and I guess you can, once the vaccine's here and people are vaccinated, that counts as herd immunity. He says right now it's still too controversial for herd immunity, at least in the United States.
Yeah.
It would cause too much political problem right now. So he says, at least in the United States, that's not going to happen, but it is a solution.
Well, some think that somebody whose name I won't mention, who worked for the NIH, was encouraged by the global elite to to issue orders to encourage the orders for a shutdown, so that the economy would be broken and so that Trump would not be reelected. So I'm just wondering if the lockdown, I mean, protect old people and those with comorbidities, quarantine them, but to lock down everything, I don't know that that was a good idea, is it? I
There
mean,
was
what would have
Eric.
happened if we didn't do that?
Eric says there was a political aspect to the lockdown.
Yeah.
There was. So had we not locked down, and he's talking to me just about the United States, had the United States not locked down, there would have been more potential deaths. So how he says it is maybe more people would have taken this exit point
Mm.
rather than a later one.
Okay.
Because he's saying that there would have been more deaths.
Even if we
Um,
protected the elderly and those with comorbid conditions, or those immunocompromised?
because what he says is because even um like some of the elderly wouldn't have listened. They wouldn't have gone into quarantine if stuff was still open, if everything was still going on. They would have just kind of used their free will to keep kind of doing what they're doing. But he does say to me now, there have been considerably more deaths, and I don't know if there's any statistics out on this yet, but increase in suicide, increase in domestic
Yeah.
stuff. So he says it really, by the time all is said and done, when you factor in the increase in suicide and the increase in domestic
And
deaths,
sexual abuse and alcoholism and drug
yes,
addiction. Yeah. Every percent increase in unemployment, 10,000 suicides.
mhm,
So that has to be considered.
yes, and it won't be necessarily. Although he's telling me somebody will do an independent study
Do it now.
once this is all done. It's true. He said you can't really. I mean, you can start it now, but you can't really do it now because it's not done.
Yeah.
And so by the time all said and done, he says it would probably have been a wash.
Yeah. Plus the number of deaths due to COVID are probably overestimated, because they pretty much anybody. Oh, just say it's COVID.
Yes.
Just say it's COVID when
Yes.
it's not necessarily COVID.
Well, the problem he's saying with the statistics is that they are skewed. There's too many people being diagnosed as dying from COVID where they didn't. But the other problem is everybody's not being tested, so a lot more people have it and will never know. I personally have somebody in my family, a married couple, aunt and uncle. One of them was asymptomatic the entire time. The other one was sick, mildly to moderately sick.
Mhm.
And had she not gotten sick, they would never have known he had it.
Oh wow.
And
I
so
know.
there's a lot
So
of that.
yeah, so there's it's like millions and millions and millions with COVID, very few deaths in
Yeah.
comparison to the millions. So anyway, so I don't know. Is it true? Is it true that there probably will have been more casualties due to the lockdown than from the actual virus? When we consider suicide, domestic abuse, alcohol, the things we just talked about.
No, Eric says
You know,
no. He said there'll still be more COVID deaths. That will still out whatever.
outweigh.
Yes, the deaths, the other deaths. And then he says it's also hard to tell, those statistics of the domestic violence and the suicide, did it happen because of the lockdown? Was it going
No.
to happen anyways? So,
Yeah, we may never know, but
no.
I know that a lot of businesses have gone under and will never come
Yes.
back and everything.
Yep.
Anyway, when will it be? Somebody wants to know. Was sheltering in place a good thing, a good idea? I don't believe it was, but according to these ER docs, but I don't really know. When will it be safe to get back to normal?
Okay. So how Eric puts it is that it was not necessary. However, had it not been done, the fallout,
Oh God.
the lawsuits,
Oh
there
yeah.
would have been more fallout had the lockdown not happened. Again, he's talking strictly United States to me right now. Had we, or North America, I suppose. I said United States, and he went boom and showed me Mexico and Canada.
Oh, and
Um,
okay.
so had we not done it, the fallout, the backlash, the
Yeah.
lawsuits would have been really, really extreme. So in one sense, this was good, and in another, it was not.
Well, that's what I told my husband. I said, Trump's damned if he does, or whoever would be president,
Yeah,
damned if he doesn't, damned if he doesn't, because if he did do everything, then they would say every death was due to him and he would have blood on his hands. And if he overreacted, I mean, it's like, then you
yeah,
can at least just blame the freaking virus. And,
yeah. So
or since he's delegating everything to the governors, then
right, yeah. Well, kind of sharing the responsibility or
right,
blame, whatever,
yeah,
whatever you want to call it. But so what Eric is telling me is that really this next month, May, we're going to start to see in North America, especially, the stuff getting back to normal,
yeah.
stuff opening up, people getting back to work. And really, he says, if that doesn't happen, these protests and all this other stuff are going to get worse. It's going to need to happen,
Yeah.
because otherwise, he says, there really will be the people rise up.
You know how
Um,
Americans are.
yeah.
Okay, somebody asked, how I saw this on medical devices of the future. It's reverse ET technology, where you shine light in the IV as it's going into the body, and in particular, in this case, UVC light. Would that um, help if you shine UVC light? And I don't know, normal saline, whatever they use.
Help to kill the viruses.
Well, whatever. What would it have any effect? I guess I'm saying.
Um, I have to tell you right now, Eric is saying the way the technology is, very little results.
Okay.
And there's something about, because it goes into the veins,
Uh-huh.
it can't get to where it is going to need to be effective. It's like we're on our way there, but we're not quite there. It's not quite effective enough. It
Maybe
needs
it needs to go
tweaking.
into the lungs itself.
Yeah,
And
it needs tweaking. It's
yeah,
wherever it's going into the veins. It's not effective enough, because by
yeah.
the time it gets where you want it, it's too diluted or something.
What about the
Too
artery?
weak. Actually, that he says that would be better. I don't know how they would do that, but he says that
I
would be
don't know.
better.
Okay.
Uh,
I have been circulating this everywhere for so long that far UVC lights would open up the economy now. Like some uh, institutions should have permanent installations, like um, subways and jetways, airports, where it emits far UVC light, and hospitals and well, maybe not nursing homes, but then some. Anyway, that kills 99.99% of all pathogens, including methicillin-resistant, staph, influenza, COVID, tuberculosis, C. difficile, all these outbreaks that happen. But you could also have these establishments uh, rent these portals or these retrofit for the LED lights whenever there is an outbreak or a pandemic or an epidemic of anything, like
yeah,
restaurants and retail outlets and warehouses. And well, food production plants should have it as a permanent thing, and
yeah.
airplanes, cruise ships should also. Anyway, so
Eric says you're gonna start to see places. What he keeps showing me is like, when you go to the airport and you go to the screening, and the
yeah.
like a little pod like that, like, something like that. And he says you are gonna start to see, um hospitals, he says prisons,
Oh,
um
good.
places like that are gonna have
Nursery homes, everything, yeah.
Yes.
Well, you don't want to put it permanent everywhere because we do have to have bacteria. I mean, that we
Yes.
need that microbiome. But I'm talking about in some areas, yeah. But but rent those units when there is an epidemic or pandemic or whatever, like in movie theaters and churches and schools and all that, but then take them away when everything's solved. But so I've been sitting this, and Trump, after a couple of weeks, finally started talking about UV light, and then well, he didn't have the application down right because I don't know, maybe people are hiding from it. But did he get my letter? I mean, did he get that, or somebody tell him about?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, good. Okay, so so what did they think about it?
Of that idea?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what Erik was saying is actually a bunch of people have sent this information too. So you're not the only one who's, like, hey, come on, there's a real solution here.
Yeah.
It's being looked into. They're looking into it. Do they already have these machines? They've already got them somewhere.
They do. Lots of companies make them.
Okay.
Portals. Yeah. It's 10 seconds you have to go through. So if they do a jetway, they'll probably have to, as you go down for 10 seconds, it's going to have to. But the overhead lighting will sterilize all the surfaces and the air. So.
Yes.
Okay, so that's good. So just we can start doing it now. Okay, seriously. Then we won't have any more. We won't be vulnerable so much to even the influenza epidemics, which can be quite considerable, and the MRSA and the C. diff and all that.
Yeah, well, Erik says it's definitely going to be, it's being worked on and looked at. Of course, stuff takes time. So he says, that's one of the good things that will come out of this type of vulnerability is that there will be, people putting things in place so that, we're not kind of caught with our pants down, as Erik just put it to me, in the future.
If I owned a business, I would use that as a marketing thing. Hey, look, shop here, eat here. We got you covered. You're not going to get any infections, and we got a portal for you, whatever. All right, so I called into the Sean Hannity mini shows. Okay, Sean Hannity show, and Katie, the producer, was so excited about the technology. She had never heard of it before, so nobody called in about it. And she kept on, "Are you there? Are you there? Are you there?" And anyway, then at the end, Trump got on. So she said, "Just call back tomorrow." So I did, and Sean started talking to him, and he was talking. And then when I started talking about what the technology actually was, click, I got cut off. I was monitored. I know it.
Yes, you were. Absolutely.
Who was monitoring me?
Oh
no. Okay, just somebody in the U.S. or somebody in China.
Okay, Erik says it's the U.S. and it's one of the government agencies with some initials.
God, what rude. Deep state people.
Oh, he says don't say.
Okay, don't. Okay, no more. How can we prevent future pandemics other than what I just mentioned? Is that
he says you cannot prevent them.
Mm-hmm.
What you can do is contain and control them a little bit better, is how he puts it. Can't prevent them because
there's always the far UVC. Then at least it wouldn't have so many people wouldn't be affected because everything would be disinfected, sterilized.
Well, yes, but what Erik is saying is, but even though we have the technology, that's not going to reach all areas of the globe. It's not.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And there is still the ability for like this happened, a virus to jump from animal to human that we're not kind of really prepared for.
Oh yeah.
And aware of. So he says you cannot prevent them.
Okay.
Pandemics are part of the human experience. But you can learn to control and contain them, which we will because of this pandemic.
I don't want to just talk about the U.S. I mean, do you have any other advice, any different advice for other countries?
Well, so a lot of this goes for countries that all the countries around the globe. I can't remember now why he was specifically talking about the US. I think that was more when it was like politically motivated and
Oh
stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah.
But most of what's been said here goes for around the globe as far as like, stuff you can take, medications,
Okay.
vitamins, that sort of thing. Um, not really. He says, no, not really. We're all in the same boat. Everybody's in the same boat.
Okay. And that's kind of what's I hate to say cool about this, but this is the one thing that seems to throughout history affected all human beings. And we'll talk about the permanent repercussions of this, positive and otherwise. Now, the vaccine, when do you think it will be out, and will it be safe? Will it be
Okay.
mandated? Will it be microchipped? Will it kill us?
Okay.
No. Some people, there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there, okay?
Yes, there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there. And to be honest with you, Eric says, yes, some people will probably have a reaction to the vaccine
Well, like any, yeah.
like anything else. So how Eric has put it to me is that the vaccine for this, of course, it takes a long time to approve a vaccine. It just takes a long
Oh,
time to do that.
yeah.
Okay. They're going to do something to kind of shorten that time, but they're also using stuff in the vaccine that they already use in vaccines.
Okay.
Not completely, but there's already stuff that's approved to be used in vaccines. So
Okay.
he says something there will shorten the time for it. Yes, in some countries this will be mandated. In some countries
Yeah.
you
What
will
about
have to have
here?
this
I mean,
vaccine.
what about the US?
No,
What
no.
about microchips in the vaccine? Will that be in the US at least, or well, anywhere?
Um, yes and no.
What?
Um, yes, in some places there will be microchips. Not everywhere. It won't be standard in the vaccines. Some countries may use this as an opportunity to microchip certain people.
Oh, okay.
And he says it's certain people.
Yeah.
It's like, again, I'm with the prisons. He's put me to the prisons. Um,
Oh, wow.
Now he is telling me that prisoners, um, and possibly military in the US will be required to do this. And there will be a possibility that they microchip certain people to keep track of them. I am actually kind of surprised at that. As a person, I didn't really think that there would be any microchipping, but Eric is telling me that there will be some.
With their consent, with their knowledge, or it's clandestinely?
Correct, clandestine.
Oh, that's awful. Um, what about immunotherapy? Like using somebody's plasma that already had it and recovered? Does that help?
Yeah, yeah, that's going to be effective. And there's going to be is that the same as stem cell, or is stem cell fall in that
No,
category?
yeah, no, that's different. But you
Okay,
take plasma from people who've recovered, somehow extract the anti-COVID antibodies from that and give it to, I guess, just critically ill people,
okay.
seriously ill, right?
So when you said that, Eric said stem cell, stem cell. I guess there'll be some stem cell stuff.
Okay. But should everybody who's critical get immunotherapy, the plasma from the ones who have
Uh,
recovered?
I mean, it's worth trying. Yeah, yeah. If you're critical and not recovering, yes.
Does it work in like what, 5% of the time, 10% of the time? I mean, overall, as an average.
Um, he's really like 15 to 20 is where he's at for me.
Okay.
There's going to be some really effective, but he said there's got to be other stuff that go into,
Oh, yeah.
um,
Yeah.
other stuff that goes in just other than the immunotherapy. I don't know what
Okay.
else this is that's being put in the body.
Okay. Maybe they could shine the far UVC light of the IV when they're giving it. I don't know.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they say, some people say, I don't know who they is. They're very knowledgeable, though. They
Yes,
say,
they are.
but anyway, some people think, experts think that, once you have it, it doesn't mean you're immune. You can catch it again. Is
Hmm.
that true?
Hmm. Yep. Eric says yes. Once you have it, you can catch it again.
And what percent of the time can that happen usually? I mean,
Um, percentages are always weird for me, but I feel like we're up around 50.
okay.
It's a pretty high percentage, but yeah, maybe you get it a less,
Oh,
you
that's another
know,
good question. Yeah.
yeah, you're a less aggressive version of it. But yes, you're not. Well, and he says, as I was getting ready to say what he was saying, he was adding more to it. It's like chicken pox.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you
Yeah.
can get chicken pox and have it again.
Yeah.
Um,
Not as shingles, for sure.
yeah, yeah, and like my daughter was vaccinated for chicken pox and got chicken pox anyways. Like 2-3 years after her vaccine. Yeah,
Oh, poor thing.
so it's like that. Viruses are tricky.
They
Viruses are
they
tricky.
mutate, damn it, and
Yes,
makes it more difficult. Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Now, why did Fauci predict this pandemic? I don't know, I think it was a couple years ago, maybe, or maybe it was this fall. He said there will be a pandemic. How could he say that when we really haven't had a pandemic since the Spanish flu? How did he
Um,
know?
so
Statistics, or did he know
yeah,
something?
Eric's telling me statistics. Statistically speaking, about every 100 years there's a pandemic on the planet.
Okay.
So there's that, but there's also, there were versions of corona, kind of, there was
What?
virus like stuff happening that was kind of new, a couple years ago.
Oh,
So it's like Eric says he could see the writing on the wall that something was coming.
yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so why did he give 3.7 million to the Wuhan lab, even though there was a moratorium at that time for giving research grants to China?
I don't know.
Oh,
I, I,
Eric,
I
you
Eric
know,
is
Eric,
Eric got silent there.
is why Eric? Because is it for safety reasons or because you just don't know?
No, it's safety. It's safety reasons.
Okay,
Sometimes I get nervous when you ask questions 'cause I can feel like he just was dead silent. But when you
just
said, "Is it
don't
safety?"
answer.
Yep,
Eric,
goosebumps shot right through me. So
oh,
yeah,
okay, no, okay,
it's
forget it. Sorry.
yep.
What's the true difference between the influenza and the COVID? It's like one is more infectious, one is more virulent, one is, I mean, can you kind of compare them a little
Yes, he's
bit?
trying to do something, and I asked him to stop because it was involving spiders, which I'm not a
I
fan.
don't like spiders.
Um,
Neither.
so so I'm asking him to give me something else.
That's funny.
Okay, thank you. So he says it's kind of like comparing a house cat. Cats are much better for me. A house cat
Yeah.
to a tiger.
Oh,
Um, they're kind of the same, but completely different. And like, one you're kind of like used to seeing all over the place. You're used to seeing it
yeah.
everywhere. The other one, if it's like scares the shit out of you.
Yeah.
So he puts it like that, but there is also a lot of similarities. There's a lot of similarities. People get really sick, people die. Some people don't ever get it. There's a lot of similarities. But he says that's the biggest difference. We're a lot more afraid of one than we are the other.
Oh, yeah.
But really, he says, he kind of puts it like, really, how many of you really need to be afraid of tigers?
I know. I'm not.
Not very many
I'm
people.
not gonna let them
So,
in the front door. So
but like the coronavirus, he's saying, is like the tiger, and the flu is like the house cat. You're so used to it. You're so used to it being around, even though people are dying, and possibly even percentage-wise more people. You're just so used to it that you
yeah.
become immune to the talk of it.
Right, right. And fear does not do wonders for the immune system, by the way, people.
No,
Um, which one has more asymptomatic cases as a general rule?
coronavirus. He says coronavirus hands down has more asymptomatic.
That's weird.
People, when they get the flu, they usually feel something.
Oh, okay. I got
Um, yep.
it. Interesting. Okay? How can we recover our economy? The U.S.
It'll it will happen organically. It will happen organically.
So there's nothing. I mean, how can we pay for all this trillions we spent on? I mean, on the care packages, the stimulus packages, and there will be more probably, right?
There will be. It's just gonna people are gonna get back out spending. People are gonna have jobs. It will. it's not going to happen overnight, but it's, if you want to call it a hole, it's a hole we will climb out of.
Oh, good. Some people say as early as October, we'll sort of like be well on our way
Yeah,
economically.
yeah. And so the thing Erik says about this is he says people are resilient.
Yeah.
So when things start getting back to normal, yes, there are going to be some permanent changes that you're going to see, but in your day-to-day life, probably not. After a couple of months, you won't even, people will get back to living. And he says globally, this will
Good.
happen.
That's good. All
Yeah.
right. So do you think that the economy will be a lot better by the fall, like October
Yeah,
or
it's got potential. Yeah.
okay.
He
What
says
about
right now it's really not that bad. It's really not that bad.
yeah,
Yes,
how are we
when
gonna pay that money? I mean, seriously, what are we gonna do with all that huge deficit?
I
Drip-
don't really understand how all that works, but he says like there's constantly moving pieces in regards to that.
Okay.
So something about something about that will,
It'll work out, in other words.
yes. Yes.
Okay, what can we do about China? I mean, can we get restitution from them somehow? I mean, they have a
No.
ton of gold.
No, I mean, when you asked the question, Erik said no, there'll be no restitution from China.
Okay.
Um,
A lot of people trying to sue the, states,
yes.
but nothing will happen.
It's very unlikely, because really and truly what will be difficult is to prove that China did this on purpose.
Oh, yeah. Well, they didn't make it if it's on purpose or not on purpose. They should be responsible. They should have.
Yeah, Erik says that's very gray area. It's a
Okay.
very gray area.
Even if all the countries or a lot of countries got ganged up on them,
Okay.
we're not gonna
So,
we're not gonna trade with you anymore.
okay, that's different than suing and getting restitution.
Okay.
That's kind of certain other kind of tactics that
Okay.
maybe that yes, those may be effective.
And so if we, for example, say, in other countries say, we're pulling all the
Yes.
supply, then what will they do? Here's a big check for $4 trillion.
That
What?
well, not immediately, but that would be a way to,
Oh, like they'll create maybe a trust
yes, a means
that
to
will.
an end. Yes.
Okay. Should we
But
pull our? Go ahead.
suing them, Erik says suing or something like that, that's not going to work, but I guess we could call it manipulation and, you know, kind of a little bit of strong arming or something. Not in a bad way, just in a like, okay, hey, what the
No,
hell?
I think it's in the interest of our national security to not have most pharmaceuticals made there, right? Because they could say, sorry, not going to have your
Yes.
diabetic pills or your high.
Yes.
Do you think we will see that we'll be pulling almost all supply chains back to the U.S.
And
and if not
Mexico.
to Vietnam, India,
Mexico.
Mexico,
Yes.
Pakistan?
Yes. So these are things that are going to happen anyways, Erik said.
Uh,
Erik is saying that regardless of what China does, factories and production of stuff is going to go to other countries, to other places, back into the United States,
good.
because it's like having all your eggs in one basket is
Yeah.
is not a good idea.
That was driven by greed. I get more
Yes.
profit if I do put a plant
Yes.
in China. And look, some of those that made that decision may be out of business now because of
Yep.
that.
All of this stuff needs to be spread around. It should not be
Yeah,
going to
diversify.
one country.
You diversify those.
Yes.
Okay, somebody wants to know, is there anything that Trump should have done differently?
Okay, so Erik puts it that he did the best he could with the information that he had. So, no, there's not necessarily anything that he should have done
What a
differently. Now, of course,
horrible
hindsight, but with the information he had at the time, no.
Is Biden guilty, by the way, of the sexual assault of Tara Reid? Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm. And we want him to be the next president? No. Okay. And is this what's going on here? Is this a form of control the government is using to take away our freedom? Because now, Facebook and all that, the Atlantic says that we need to model after China and monitor the internet, censor everything. Really? In order to be conducive to our social norms?
Yeah, that's not good. That won't happen. That won't happen.
Is that what they, or at least some part of the government or any government is trying to use this crisis as an opportunity for their own agenda to oppress and rob us of our
In
freedom?
some countries, yes, this will be the case, absolutely. Um, but at least here it won't last. It won't last. And I have to say, Eric was telling me, if you guys think that stuff that you do online isn't already being monitored,
I know.
it is. It is. Now, that does not mean that every word that we say is being monitored, but yes, there are certain red flag things that if you are typing up online or you are saying in front of any of your smart, things,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's getting picked up. So, but not in the way like, not like North Korea or anything,
Oh, yeah.
but
Well,
everything
am
we
I safe?
do has a digital print that's being monitored.
Okay. Am I safe in posting that fall cabal YouTube that was already posted by somebody else? I just reposted it.
It's
And
going to get pulled.
oh, I'm sure. Um, do the poles shifting have anything to do with pandemics? Someone wants to know.
The political polls?
No, the pole, the Earth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No. Eric says no, they don't.
Okay. Did that one. Will there be more people spiritually awakening as a result of this pandemic?
Yes.
Okay. I will expand on that in a minute. Will this recur every year like the flu does?
Um, yeah, to some extent, not like this. Not like this though.
Oh, good. Because maybe we'll
There
have.
would be a little bit more herd immunity to it, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
How effective will the ultimate corona vaccine be, really?
Effective.
Good.
Ultimately, it will be quite effective.
Okay, good. Will there be a second wave this year?
Um,
I mean, well, you could tell me the percentage.
yeah, Eric says yes, there will be, although he is very much making me feel like not as bad as the first
I
wave.
already asked that. No, maybe not. Okay. Um, if it does, should we just let it happen instead of doing a lockdown?
Yes.
Let it blow through?
Yes.
Will there be more than one wave, you think, this year? Or
Mm-mm.
just two? Yeah.
No, he says just two.
All right. Somebody wants to know, are we going to have to wear face masks and possibly gloves for a long time? Or is it just going to be like,
No, just temporary. Although you will start to see more people out in public wearing face masks and gloves. And
okay,
quite frankly, Eric says, if you are sick or if you have a cold or something and you're going out, you'll like in China they will put masks on.
yes.
So he says you'll start to see more countries doing that. Like if you get a cold and you feel well enough to kind of go out and do things, and
Yeah.
sometimes people have to go out and do errands, or sometimes people have to go to work even though they have a cold. But you'll see like companies especially like, okay, if you're coming to sit to work and you have a cold, you're wearing a mask.
Yeah, I think that's smart, and
It
no more
is.
handshaking when you're sick and all that stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
I think that might be we have learned so much about contagion precaution from
Yeah.
this, which is a good thing. And I realize now how much I touch my face.
Yes. Oh,
Amazing. God.
crazy.
All right, we'll talk about other permanent changes in a minute, but let me get the whole tracking government military wants to do on us and checking to see who you came in contact with lately, like uh, contact tracing. Is that for a nefarious reason this person wants to know, or just to help out?
Just to help out.
That's what I figured. Now, I think it's for the same person. Is the government and military, are they really serious about stopping us in public, having pop-up checkpoints, or coming to our homes to check if we
No.
have the virus or not? And if we deny the testing, get a fine or arrested?
No.
That doesn't sound like America. Um, is this lockdown in a way, healing for Mother Earth? I mean, look at Venice. I mean,
Yes.
the boat stirring up stuff. It is clear now. Of course,
Yes,
it's still at the
absolutely.
bottom. So it's healing in what ways is it healing Mother Earth? And then I
Well,
have another
the
question.
the pollution, well, that's the big one. Eric says the pollution.
Oh, yeah.
And he kind of stops there. He's like the pollution, the pollution, the pollution.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Oops, already asked that one. Last question. We'll talk about what permanent changes we'll experience. Let's start out with the bad ones. I'm going to end up on a happy note. Any permanent solutions that are bad from this? Of course, a lot of people business will have gone under and
Yes.
can't come back, but they'll find something else, maybe to some other
Yes.
opportunity.
So yeah, there's going to be that where there's, like the small businesses especially go under, and people go bankrupt. There's going to be the housing market is going to, now that's not permanent, but the housing market will dip. People will lose their homes. So there's those things. Then there's kind of some things that will be inconveniences. You may find that there's a permanent, if you're cruising, you're always getting your temperature taken before you get on the ship. You're always getting your temperature taken before you get on a plane, and maybe not being able to travel if you have a fever. So there will be kind of those irritating things.
Okay.
That especially the cruise ships. The cruise ships at this point, Eric says you may never be able to cruise without having your temperature taken before you.
Far UVC portals in and out in the whatever. Come on. All right. So what about lifestyle changes that are good? Like, because of what I just said about the wheat thing, America is so, the 40% are obese. And then you've got all this inflammation going on, and that's horrible for the immune system. Will we eventually say, hey, man, we need to go back to the way we were 40 years ago and get rid of these inflammation rooted, these diseases and conditions rooted in inflammation? We need to eat an anti-inflammatory diet. We need to this, that, and the other thing. Will
Yeah,
that happen?
you'll have
Like,
a certain percentage of the population that will do that. But Eric says, people are creatures of habit, and very quickly you'll find people just get right back into their old routines.
yeah. Well, what about the government not allowing this horrible wheat that we have now? What about then, banning GMO?
Yeah, we do eventually in the United States. Of course, a lot of countries already do. A lot of countries other than the United States already do ban this stuff. That is going to be a political process that is going to take time, Eric says.
It's too bad, because it's all about the profit, and
Yes.
more wheat can grow in one field,
Yeah, so what he says about that is kind of cute. He says that you may find that the millennials are the one who take care of that
Good.
when they get to be in positions of power.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yes.
But
It's a
so
process though.
that will make us less vulnerable to, well, all sorts of diseases, including certain pathogens like COVID. And of course, there'll probably be more telecommuting, right?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Education and
Yes, education. You're going to find a lot of people realize that their employees can do their work from home.
yeah.
So you're going to see a lot of that. That'll be a little bit more of a permanent change.
What about education too?
Education, high school, college for sure. Not as much major change in elementary and middle though.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine.
No.
Keeping those hellions still in front of a computer. Any other? So those are positive, I guess.
Yeah.
Unless it makes us all hermits, so we don't get enough vitamin D. We don't get sunshine and stuff.
Right.
My whole lifestyle is shelter in place anyway.
Yeah, mine too.
So anything else? One last question. Any other permanent changes that are good? Well, spiritual awakening. We talked about that. Mm-hmm. People are going to be more spiritually awake.
Yeah. Well, off the top of my head, I'm not getting anything from him. So
a lot of information. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not getting anything new.
Okay. Well, I hope I asked everything that everybody wanted me to ask. There was a lot. Thank you so much, Erik. I love you. Thank you, Jennifer. I love you too. You guys check her out. Let me see. Come on. PsychicMediumJenniferDoran.com, which I will put right here. Be safe, everybody.
Thank you. Erik says, love you, Mama.
Thank you, Jennifer. I really appreciate this.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Love you, Erik.
Love you. Bye.
Bye-bye.